Hey everybody, and welcome back to the 2019 Black History Month campaign, Icons, Rockstars, and Innovators. And speaking of icons, rockstars, and innovators, I'm here with LIV LEWIS. Hi Liv.
Hey.
How are you?
I am excellent. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited to
that.
speak to you today.
I'm excited to speak to you today.
Oh man.
This is going to be fun.
This whole content series has been more than exciting. Everyone's been telling us about their journeys, their perspectives on the golden era of Black advertising. So I'm ready to get your perspective.
My perspective, well, I come from a background of actually not Black advertising. I came from a general market communications firm where, you know, there were only one, right? You're the token one when everyone asked you how every Black person should act. And it's like, huh? And so for me, my journey has been one to where now I realize I'm enough. And that self-discovery took maybe 15 years to really be true to myself, to land now at a multicultural firm where it doesn't feel like work, it feels like a personal journey and also feels very purposeful.
Got it.
And there were a lot of lessons. One of, you know, being told like too bold, too direct,
too much of everything,
too transparent, and you grapple with that when coming from a communications firm or coming from a general market firm, because you sometimes feel you have to stifle
who
yourself,
you are.
And that is what I thought I had to be in working at these firms. And what I started to realize was I was also stifling my creativity because all of me was not present as I was working on these advertising campaigns or these creative campaigns, telling these stories. I felt very much like I held back, and my career started to struggle a little bit, and I had to actually take a step back to really figure out, well, who am I? And it wasn't until I started to see women dominating pop culture, women that were kind of being strong and telling their own truths, and it gave me the courage to be brave enough to be my true self.
It's amazing that you actually bring that up, because I know there are a lot of people that have experienced feeling like they had to stifle themselves, especially when not seeing too many people or women primarily that may look like myself, quite frankly. So it'd be great to hear how you actually got into the business. How did you find yourself at a general market communications agency?
Well, I hail from Maryland, and I knew Maryland couldn't hold me down. I knew, and this was the days with Sarah Jessica Parker, Sex and the City.
Sex and the City.
I knew I was going to be Samantha Jones.
Listen, I was watching it.
I knew, but what I didn't realize was, oh, it's expensive to live.
Oh, you Jimmy Choo? Anyone?
No. And the fact that was not a story that was told to me, as I just came thinking I was going to come. So I came to New York specifically to work in fashion, actually, and
sweaters in your oven. Got it.
The exact same plot line. I knew it, right? And I came, and I knew I didn't know anyone, so I had to be strategic in my approach. Like I went to FIT and I got an associate's, but I already had a bachelor's in communications. And so working and learning the ropes of fashion in New York, I worked at Tommy Hilfiger and I was an intern. But what I didn't understand, and this is key in internships, was there was no plan to show me the business of fashion. And so I quickly got out of it because I didn't think it was anything more than playing with clothes. There was no program, not faulting Tommy, obviously. I just didn't know what to ask for. I didn't know what I needed to know. And I didn't have that mentor. That's a huge key in kind of helping me shape my career.
Lay it out for you.
Exactly. And that's huge. And that's one of the things that I now look for in giving back to and adding value to other people so they can avoid some of these pitfalls that I found myself in. And so working in fashion, I quickly realized, well, I need to figure out what is it that I'm doing here, because the Samantha dream is gone, honey.
It's too expensive and too small and too everything.
Well, it wasn't realistic.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, if you think about the show now, why was I even looking at that? I didn't see myself.
It was a fun show.
It was a great show. I still watch it. It still comes on, right? And so I went into beauty. I went to work at Calvin Klein. Launching the Eternity Moment fragrance. I think it was with Scarlett Johansson before she was ScarJo. And I quickly, and we launched it at the Hotel Gansevoort before the rats. Okay, this is when Hotel Gansevoort was amazing. which also dates me.
It's like, no comment, but I'm like, yep, I'm seeing a time period in my head right now. Got it.
And so working in the beauty industry, I felt excited to learn about this industry, but I quickly figured out, and through other people, well, being in-house was something that you did after you got your career about an agency. And so I started to look for an agency where I could get that experience, because I knew coming to New York, I'm very driven, I'm about climbing the corporate ladder, and so I was looking for opportunities to be able to learn as quickly as possible.
Got it.
Yeah, and so I did, I left Calvin Klein, I went to a small boutique firm, and that's where I learned media relations, the value of relationships, deepening those relationships, fostering those relationships, because at the end of the day, that's what this business is about, right? I mean, you're telling stories, but there's also key relationships you need to understand, work, and foster to be able to grow and to be able to learn.
Right.
And so I did that for about a year, and then went to a bigger firm where I worked my first CPG account, and it was Crest, and I was there for 5 years. And that is where I learned holistic marketing. That's where I realized, oh my gosh, it's not just communications, there are all these other touch points in telling a whole story. But that is also realizing that, there's a piece of the story in Crest that we're not telling, and that was the African American approach to oral care. And so working with our communications firm and our communications touch points within P&G, we then created a smaller campaign where we targeted African Americans. So happened to be Black History Month, and we talked about the importance of oral health, because what people didn't realize was oral health led to improper oral health led to other disease, gum disease, heart, diabetes, etc. And so from DeVries Communications, I learned that, parlayed into Citizen PR, and that was another agency focusing on CPG work, and then landed at a time in my life where I just had my son. I quickly had another kid, and I was grappling with being a mom, knowing the importance of that, but still wanting to grow my career and the importance of that as well. And I had this internal struggle of, well, what comes first? And so I made a couple of career jumps because I didn't realize what I was struggling with. I just thought it was the job, not you need to do some internal work to figure out what LIV wants. And from jumping a few times and it not really working out, I really took a step back to really figure out what is my purpose here? What am I really doing? And it's actually that time that I got into this road of discovering that I am enough, because I was seeking roles only with the lens of GM. And so it so happened after it took 3 years to get to that. I mean, I raised my kids, and now they didn't need me anymore. When I decided to come back into the role, I knew I was looking for a role where I could add value, but I was also looking for a place to call home. And it just so happened that EGAMI Group they were looking for someone that had my skill sets, but also too, they were looking for someone to be an advocate for them and be an advocate for the storytelling that we wanted to do.
It's amazing to know that there are agencies that still are not just looking for, what you can add, but obviously what they can also help you or add to your life as well. So that's amazing that that's a part of your story. Recognizing that you come from the communications side and storytelling, one of the stories that we're telling through this campaign is about the golden era of Black advertising, which we're earmarking as the late 1960s through the early 1990s. And specifically during that time period, we're telling stories about how there became a larger feeling of empowerment, collective feeling of empowerment from people. Do you feel that we might be in a time or in a culture that's very similar to that? And if so, how?
Yeah, I think we are in a culture, in a time where it's very similar. I think we've made progress, but there's so much more work to be done. Specifically thinking about the amount of advertising dollars is put forth, multicultural, that doesn't really match the spending power of African Americans in this country, and there needs to be a reckoning almost to showcase that this consumer is important. In fact, this consumer is going to be your general market in the next few years, and calibrating that is huge. And I think it's important for individuals such as myself to be able to continue to push that narrative to advertisers and make them see the importance of this community and this audience.
Amazing, and I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And with that, we are focusing on icons, rock stars, and innovators.
Yeah.
Do you have any, or are there any innovations, whether culturally, whether through technology, or even just through approach to communications that came about during the golden era of Black advertising that we should most likely be celebrating this month?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that the role of the influencer, not the influencer that we are thinking about where it's social, but when Burrell, for example, started putting talent that looked and was doing things like me, middle class America, Black America, and almost humanizing us and almost raising their hand to say, we're the same general market consumer. We are the same. We do the same thing. We brush our teeth. We wash the cars. We
definitely brush our teeth.
We take whole showers.
Whole showers. Everything.
I think bringing that aspect to the forefront and telling and showing that to the advertisers and to consumers was something that was birthed out of that era and vital to this day. Yeah. It looks different now, but I think that was the only way for them to really see us. And it was an important part of the narrative as you start to look at, well, African Americans and challenging those preconceived notions of who we are, how we acted, how we behaved, rectifying that and being able to showcase that was huge in that era.
And it's still even
and
huge
it's still
today.
Huge, yeah. And I think it's interesting because when you work in a firm, like I work at EGAMI Group, I know that I have a service to my client, but I also have to represent my community, making sure that the stories we're telling are authentic and right, specifically as it relates to the insights. If you have the insights right about us, then your communication, your story is going to feel right and therefore resonate with your consumer, and they're going to understand that. They'll say, they get me, and then of course then the purchase intent is there.
Exactly.
Raising your hand to be a part of a cause is there because they knew you took the time to know them.
That resonance, I would say, is probably more important now than ever.
Absolutely.
And with that, it's actually great that you brought up Burrell and their contribution to the industry today. But there are also other what we call multicultural agencies, such as the Carol H. Williams Agency, as well as Uniworld and countless others that have come across or that have come about in years past and current days. But can you, or do you have a perspective on why these agencies may have sustained so long in this business?
Well, they do great work.
There it is.
They do great work, and it's not either or. Why can't it be an and? If not, why can't it be a better? Why is it that? And it's interesting, the approach to general market, you focus on one, AA, you focus on other. I think there's rich value in having an advertising agency that's focused and understand the cultural nuances, the cultural competency that needs to happen in an advertising campaign, because all of America now is a part of AA, and so when you have African American agencies can tell two sides of the story. They understand general market and they understand AA. They may be even poised to be doing it better.
And I mean, you guys were able to show that with the EGAMI Group and recently at Cannes, right?
Yeah, we just won a Cannes Lion for the work we did with My Black is Beautiful in the Talk. And it was a nuanced approach where we brought that human insight to the table to say, this is a talk that we're having, and then working with a BBDO to be able to put forth the producing aspect of it and creating the story. But without the nuance, it would have fallen flat.
Exactly.
And what we saw was, we did so well. One, the intention was never to win awards because it was a personal story, but it did so well because it was so true.
Right.
And
it resonated.
When it's so true, you can't deny it. Albeit people kind of said it didn't happen, but how can you negate something that we're all saying, no, I remember when I had. And people were searching for a place to share that story. I remember how it made me feel. And then I have to give that talk. What am I going to say? I have a young son.
Exactly.
And having a platform like that is going to be able to give me the tools to have that conversation is vital in this time in America.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us for this content series today. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
So good to see you.
Thank you. And obviously, it's a great, thank you all for watching this content series as well. We will be back with more. Liv, thank you. Appreciate
Absolutely.
you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Take care.